Dan is the CEO of Farmscape, which is probably one of the largest urban agriculture ventures in Southern California. They have over 350 gardens now planted at institutions, residences, all throughout Los Angeles. He's also a master gardener and a member of the LA Food Policy Council's working group on urban agriculture. And I will let Dan take it from here. Thank you, Dan.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Robert. And I think to start, I was going to give everybody a brief chance to introduce themselves so you kind of understand what projects they're working on and where they're coming from as we delve into the substance of our conversation. And I'll start with Sasha Cano to my left.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Thank you for lunch. It was delicious, and the field trip yesterday. It's nice to be part of something where urban ag has a stakehold. Been to a lot of conferences and things in California, and urban is always just a tiny little sliver. So thank you, Seedstock. Appreciate it. My name is Sasha Cano. I have a small nonprofit farm in Long Beach, just down the 405 freeway. Maybe next year we can go south for tours. We are farming on a 1/6 of an acre. It's very tiny. It's bio-intense and biodynamic. We have a small retail store that's open monthly for a second Saturday marketplace. We've incorporated music and coffee and breakfast and classes into the store being open. Our nonprofit is Long Beach Local. We are a nonprofit kind of by default, unfortunately. It wasn't my original intention. We lease our property from the city of Long Beach Park and Rec. So to do our farm on their parkland, we are a nonprofit. There was nothing already established in Long Beach that was an agriculture-based nonprofit, or I probably would have just gone that route and partnered up. But now that we're almost 5 years into it, I'm able to lift my head up from the ground and kind of get more into developing the nonprofit and changing our focus and our goals to kind of harbor that a little bit better. We have an orchard, we have hens for egg production, we have bees for honey, we do vegetable production, flowers, we have staff, we have volunteers, we have work share, and got a little bit of everything going on.
Fantastic. Nurit?
Hi. I'll echo the thank yous to Seedstock. This is a wonderful conference, and I've been to a few, including the Riverside one, and I'm very excited that this one is focused on urban ag. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer here at UCLA, and unlike my fellow panelists, I'm not an expert or a grower, but I do have some background in food and used to work with a farm-to-school program here in LA. But right now I sit at more 30,000 foot level, tying food in with all the other programs that we have here at UCLA in sustainability. We're basically like a small city, kind of a mini urban environment here, or not even so small. We're about 70,000 people is our daily population. So that's kind of close to the residential population of Santa Monica, to put that into scale, only crammed onto 400 acres. So it's an interesting challenge from a sustainability perspective. We actually have a course in urban agriculture here that's taught on our little garden that we have, and I'll hopefully have a chance today to tell you a little bit more about some of the programs and how they're expanding and the courses, and basically here to offer kind of the educational perspective of how this all fits in and how we can educate the generations of tomorrow. I'm also an alum of the Anderson School here, so I have to mention, since in Robert's talk he talked about business school education, I've been excited to see, although there is certainly still a dominant model of a more narrow view of business, that both here at Anderson and throughout business schools, there's a lot of really exciting work being done to expand our idea of what business can contribute to society. And we have some Anderson alums who are entrepreneurs in the ag space and the sustainable ag space. So a lot of really exciting stuff there too, and looking forward to the panel. Thanks.
Cool. I'm Mud Barron. Yes, the name's Mud. And since you're the only non-dirt bag on the panel, I'll give you these pruners.
Oh, yeah.
Dirt bag starter kit.
I'll use them.
Right. I do lots of things. How many of you were on the tour yesterday? Hands. How many of you had a great time? Right? Yeah, vodka cocktails are always great at high schools. I run Muir Ranch, which is a 4-acre teen jobs program that looks like a school farm, catering program, CSA. all that. Really, what I do is driven by my obsessive hobby of giving flowers away. It drives everything I do. If you've had flowers on your head, you understand this. And for those of you who haven't, it will come. You're
I'm
next.
I've been watching all the photos of all my friends with flowers on their
Yeah,
heads. so I'm
hashtag flowers
excited.
on your head. I like social media a bit. The heart of the work, really, the serious part, is I change kids. I find out what they're excellent at, and I'm actually, oddly, here at the Anderson School, I'm a social entrepreneur teacher. So a lot of people go, Mud, what are you doing? And we'll talk more about it. But this weekend I had 3 kids making $20 an hour doing Palm Springs weddings with local flowers that they arranged, that they installed. And frankly, the client said they did a better job than I did. And as a teacher, I'm good with that.
Nice.
Thanks, man. Hi, everyone. My name is Ricky Smith. I'm here representing Urban Green. Urban Green is a social entrepreneurship, and what that means is we're for-profit, but I didn't intend it that way. I intended to be a nonprofit in the beginning, but the requirements to do this require a great amount of resources, and we've been at it for about 12 years. Our purpose, and we don't have a mission because they eventually end, so the purpose is eternal, to combine cuisine, land use, environment, architecture, and put everything in a regenerative package. We're really focused more on regeneration and sustainability because I know in my life, I don't want to just sustain my life, I want to grow my own personal life, and that's what we hope to do in the communities we serve. How we function is we have about 4.3 acres of land divided up in 3 parcels. Our philosophy is 80% land, 20% structure. We connect those 4.3 acres to a production kitchen that's located in the food desert of Sun Valley. So we grow from seed, we harvest, we bring it to our facility, and we do raw as well as value-added foods. Another aspect is that I think the term urban farmer or urban agriculture needs to be broadened and not be attached to a fixed idea. We'll talk more about the other ways that we support ourselves and our communities. And I'm happy to be back at UCLA. I did the Urban Ag 101 about 7 or 6 years ago when they had it. I think it's been discontinued, and I'm sure it's been replaced by something, wonderful. And I missed the tour yesterday, so hopefully I'll meet everyone, someone that went to the tour, so I can share your excitement. And I'm happy to be here and learn from other folks on this panel. And thank you, Seedstock. Just thank you for the work that you're doing of bringing diverse people, diverse ideas together. And I think you continue to do this together, we're all going to do it.
Great. So I wanted to start, we're going to talk a lot about how we go about urban farming, but I wanted to start briefly with why. And we're mostly preaching to the converted here, so I'll encourage you all to be relatively brief in terms of covering what motivates you, but why kind of go through the trouble of disaggregating food production, working in areas where land values are high rather than where they would be lower, where the cost of living is really high. Why kind of go through all those challenges?
Because it's essential. It's essential to our future. It's essential to our present. We've neglected our infrastructure way too long. When I started, I had planned to leave the United States completely because I was disappointed in how it was treating its citizens and its infrastructure. It's essential, especially in Southern California. The reason why I chose to do it here is it's a perfect proving ground because of the climate 21, the Mediterranean climate. It's a perfect proving ground because you have people that are forward thinking here and that will at least give new ideas a chance. But to get back to it, we have to realize that as citizens, we have to, even though we rely on government for services, we have to take responsibility for our own food safety and our own food protection. So I just think it's essential for a healthy society, and also it's essential to not let the human assets that are in our local cities go to rot.
So my farm apprentice is here in the back. Sarah, stand up. Everyone say, yay, Sarah. That's what the new generation of farmers looks like. Everyone say, yay, Sarah. So 25-something years ago, I showed up on Art Gish's farm in Athens, Ohio, and it was a Pennsylvania Dutch radical Christian socialist intentional community with Christian peacemaker team members. I wanted to be a furniture maker, and 20 years later, I discovered I wanted to be the farmer. Switched careers. People take food for granted. I learned from Art, who was Pennsylvania Dutch, not hippie organic, Pennsylvania Dutch organic. He worked my ass off, and I found it in the intervening years in gaining weight. But that said, you literally have to bend over and pick shit up. You just do. And it's work, and it's hard, and it's that. And if you don't have that engagement with food, you take it for granted. And really at Muir Ranch, because we're a wholesale aggregator CSA, which is to say we buy food. I love the Yangs in Fresno. I love giving them money. I love giving Chris Cadwell in Lone Poke. He was babysat by Arthur Miller. You can taste it in every one of those tomatoes. Couldn't you, Robert? That tomato, you could taste the Arthur Miller. I love giving Vicky Bernard in Riverside money. As a farm, we grow demand because there's an authenticity to that as farmers. But we provide the best food for our clients. And for my kids, and this is all I'll say, is if they don't eat the kale that we sell, I fire them on the spot. And as is, I've got shrinkage and I've got kids eating kale, and they know what the good stuff is.
So there are a lot of really good reasons and important reasons to do urban ag. For me, I'm definitely passionate about the education side. And when I used to work on a farm in Malibu and Vital Zoom In, and we had a farm to school program going, and the kids would come out, and a lot of these kids had never seen how food was grown, and they didn't have that connection. And seeing how participating in that growth changes their perspective, changes how they eat, changes everything that they do was really exciting. And just seeing how enthusiastic kids can be about carrying dirt from one area to the other, how just carrying a bucket of dirt is like extremely exciting. And how they then change once they've carried that dirt, once they've planted that seed, how that changes how they interact with this food and how excited they get about kale or broccoli or things that we joke about kids not liking. To me, those kind of programs that are really full system, that integrate nutrition and how food is grown and learning, with the garden at the school and the visit to the farm and the meeting your local farmers and how that all fits together. And it changes not only how students think about food, but how they think about systems, how they think about the world, because they start to see connections. And once you see connections in one system, you start to see connections in other places as well. So it's that systems thinking and that connection to food that I really get passionate about growing locally and in our own backyards and right here in Los Angeles.
For me personally, I worked in the film industry. I'm an expat from that. I was floral design, I did events, and I was at a point in my life I wanted to have a family and not commute. Long Beach is close, but when there's traffic, it's 3 hours or plus. Film industry, you're in Santa Clarita, you're everywhere. And I had a community garden. I was on 2-year housing land, talking about getting jammed up in local, bureaucratic mess. And so every little lot is owned by a different entity. And so most of Long Beach RDA, it's all owned by the Housing Development Company, surprise. So they give you a 2-year lease. Not much you can do with 2 years. 5 years maybe with the new ordinance. Hopefully Long Beach will adopt it. It might be better incentive for departments to let go of that stronghold. But it was a 2-year demonstration garden, and as soon as I built that garden, I got grants. It wasn't a gang-heavy, literally got shot. No, I didn't get shot. Somebody else got shot right out front of the garden. And I wanted to do something else. I didn't want to manage gardeners to come and tend their 3 by 8 foot plot. I wanted to do food production, and the garden was a really great starting point for me, and hopefully all those gardeners took it back to their apartments and their dwellings, and they're carrying on today with it. But personally, I wanted food production. So I scouted property. I did years of garden labor and free classes and all sort of things. So I had a reputation. I pitched the idea to Park and Rec commissioners. They went into lease with me to have our little farm. That all being said, you know, it was pretty much an illegal dump. So it took a year plus to clean it up, replace the soil, do raised bed gardening, start conditioning, move the chickens around, all that sort of thing that you want to be organic or beyond organic. And then now where are we? Well, we're at the point where we need to look around and see what's going on and do more classes, invite more people to come. We were open with our little retail store every week last year, and that wasn't really, it wasn't happening because all we were doing was harvesting every week. For the restaurants, because they were guaranteed sale, then to the store, we weren't actually planting anything and nourishing anything. So we've turned our market into more like a special event. So having it open monthly, now we are an incubator for small business. We've got girls who make breakfast using our farm products, and they've gone from doing it out of the back of their Tsubi to buying a little setup to now they've got a cart, and we've got pop-up coffee who now they're looking for space maybe at LA Kitchen. But we are mostly women farmers and women entrepreneurs, not intentionally, but a lot of the doers around us are women, and we are there to support them in the small business. So not only a farm, not only producing specialty crop, not only being an incubator for people that want to learn how to garden. You can scale up my model to 30 plus acres, or you could scale it down to a backyard size. Super diverse, but we're also there to be the support for anybody that wants to do some kind of small business.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I wanted to talk next, and you kind of already leading into it a little bit, but kind of about how we go about building our urban farming business models, and in particular, how we think about pricing food that we're growing in the city, you know, given some of the higher costs that we're looking at. Do you command a price premium? And if so, how do you command that price premium through marketing and other means? And maybe I'll start with you, Ricky.
Well, I want to say I came from a different background. I grew up on a 15-acre farm that's no longer a farm. I still have the acreage in Tennessee that's been in my family since 1928. And then I was thrust into a city to work for a Fortune 500 company. And then I was moved on from there. I've had really good, kind of cushy corporate jobs. And as I kind of left that world and was like, oh, money and all that. And then when I started doing this, I started with $36, living in an alley in Venice, California that's no longer there. They tore down the post office. They've torn down the place where I started. And what I came to realize is I wasn't going to be able to, not sustain, I wasn't going to be able to survive unless I did focus and start using some of the standard business practices skills that I had. Now, having said that, how we function, as I said, I started this as a heart-driven purpose for my life. And how we run the business is we have different revenue streams. My first project was at the historic Los Angeles Historic State Park, which is known as This Is Not a Cornfield. So we got a 3-year project to go in and clean up. We removed 3,000 square feet of asphalt. Actually, the Loma development was a big part of doing that. It was environmentally removed. I knew that underneath, because I had been there during the 90s when no one was going to downtown, that underneath there are these beautiful cobblestones that came off the ballasts of the ship that was predated Olivera Street. That's where the materials that came in to build Olivera. So I knew that was there, and when it was there, they were happy. And they're raving about it now. They just got $12.3 billion to redo the park or something like that. And what we did is we We restored the park, and then we brought in ag bins that were donated, and we started growing food. We made it part of the community. And then where we are now is that we not only do that, we not only grow food, but we cater to high-tech companies with the food that we grow there and the food that we get from the farmers markets that we have participated in for 12 years. We have wholesale, which is what I started. I started making an organic tart. That's how this thing got funded off the $36, and that's grown into a whole online, kiosk. We started something new. I finally got in a position where I could bring my head up, and we hired an artist in residence. His name is Patrick Kane Design. For about 10 years, I've been removing brush from the Angeles Crest Forest because there used to be 30 rangers. There's only 6 rangers that cover Malibu all the way up to Mount Wilson now. So they needed help, and I got a license, and we pull fallen trees from there, and this artist creates furniture that he sells, and he gives us one of our locations a percentage of the money. Now I want to get grants. I've pocketed enough, I've spent enough, and I think we have enough behind us that I want to start bringing other people in to help fund this. So, we have many different revenue streams, and that's out of necessity of the costs, the materials. There's a misconception that Urban Green is a for-profit company, but we've had a nonprofit since the very beginning, but I wasn't able to pay the filing fees for the state of California. We can now. So I just have to say that you got to broaden your idea of what urban agriculture is. I mean, it has to be empowering, our citizens and our cities.
Dan, the question was about the value.
Yeah, how do you go about thinking about pricing,
Sure.
pricing locally
All
grown
right.
food?
So there's the question about value. Value to whom? When I talked about my program, I said it's a teen jobs program. That's what I led with. It looks like a school farm. It looks like a CSA. It looks like Bougie Boo big farm dinners. And my event producer, Nikki Parrish, is here. Nikki, stand up. You're awesome. She works for me part-time. If you ever want an event producer, she's stunning, absolutely amazing. And, my students, Yesenia, Elizabeth, that work with her, they work right alongside. We do these 150-yard long table dinners, like outstanding in the field. We work with local chefs. The kids step in. The last dinner, it was Ernie Miller of the Master Food Preserver program, who was working with special need kids all week. And they killed it. They defied expectations. And when you talk to Irvin, for example, you would not think that Irvin had an IQ above 100. And on most of the objects, he doesn't. Most of us don't. I mean, we're all I have huge holes. I am a bit special. That said, Irvin knows every episode from memory of America's Test Kitchen. And he will school you, chef, on if you get that ratio. And seeing Irvin school Ernie Miller, who's the head of the Master Food Preserver program, who was a Yale Law Review grad, was beautiful. So the value of that, what's the value? Is the value the food on the plate, the food in the box? Is it the value to Irvin, which is transformative? And so the kids, really, their value, they want this. They don't care about local. They don't care about urban ag. They don't care about any of you, A.G. Kawamura. They don't care about all your fancy ideas. Paying attention, student. So what they want is this. But to get this, you got to bend over, pick shit up. You got to work hard. And that in itself is value. How many of you watched the Mexico-Holland World Cup game? How many of you watched that? All right. So every restaurant in town was shut down. The Mexico team, that was big. Manny, my then 19-year-old floral lead student, I've got 2 leads, they compete with each other. Mexican-American, straight male. The night before the game, he's looking at Martha Stewart websites to make sure he has his bridal inspo all down, #bridal inspo. And I told him, I said, Manny, you better hope Holland wins, right? And I've got privilege for days. I'm a straight white male whose father was a Mercedes dealer and my mom was a realtor, right? But I'm telling him, dude, you better hope Holland wins. Now the clients, it wasn't just a wedding, it was I can't make this up, Dutch Mexican lesbian wedding that morning. And I had to explain to him, because it's not about us, the value is the perception of the client. And that is an experience that we have to recreate for the students. I used to build $250,000 kitchens. There's a certain level of bullshit involved in that. And at this point, I'm trying to get these kids paid. So this particular magic was me telling Manny, if Holland wins, Serena, who's the more masculine in the relationship, she cares about the game. She doesn't give a shit about the flowers. If Holland wins, you get a bigger tip. And Holland won, and for a moment, he's like, yes! Got a big tip, nailed the wedding, and yeah, that's value.
Well,
I can talk from rather than the producer side, now from the purchasing side. We, as a university, we make a lot of food. We have a number of residence halls, and each one serves like 4,000 people per meal. So we're trying to buy sustainable food, and we're doing it on a really large scale. We're trying to get to 20% sustainable food purchase by 2020 right now.
Yay.
So yay. But it's not easy, and finding farms that can meet our demand isn't easy, and frankly, the price premium isn't easy. And it's upsetting to me that there's a price premium, not because there isn't value, there is value, but there's only a price premium because our subsidies are completely in the wrong place. And I'm not an expert, so I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but it's some tiny percentage of federal subsidies that go towards organic and sustainable agriculture. And as long as we keep putting money towards what we mistakenly call conventional, even though it's a new experiment in industrial ag, when organic is what was being done for how many thousands of years. So this conventional produce, and food, as long as we keep subsidizing that side, there's going to be a price premium. And as long as there's a price premium, it's going to be harder for organizations like mine or for individuals to buy the food that they want to buy. So I think that there's a lot of value in urban ag and local ag, but I'm excited to see the day when there's no price premium. I'm excited to see the day when it's actually cheaper to buy the organic, local, and sustainable option. So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, as a grower, every bag of salad should cost about $500. And then we would all have health care, and I'd pay my mortgage, and it would be butterflies and rainbows. My scale is so small that everything is expensive. I mean, my guest is, I'm trying to capture that Whole Foods guest. I'm trying to get them to come with me and spend their food dollars on my farm and then go to the restaurants we service, and it is the high-end Italian and the fancy steakhouse in town, and that's just my reality. The thing I can do to offset that is I have free classes. I just met NetFM, so hopefully we'll do a free irrigation class. We'll do chicken keeping, beekeeping, seed starting. Malibu Compost is very generous to us. We do compost tea workshops and all that sort of stuff. So that's all free, and that's kind of my community service I'm able to give back. But I do charge my restaurant clients retail, and they don't have a problem paying it. They love me. I love them. It's just this incestuous relationship with my chefs. Unfortunately, the public, I can't, and I'm not that diverse, so I do purchase things for the store, and I'm very transparent about who I purchased it from, Tutti Frutti, Rutiz Farms, Burkhart, they're all amazing. It's delicious stuff. It's stuff that I can't produce. My stuff is very specialty, very micro, very red stemmed and green tips and that sort of thing that is very high end. And the chefs, trim it to order, and it's very delicately placed, and it's all very beautiful. And I tried originally, my goal was to feed Long Beach, 500,000 people, 52 square miles. I'm fucking doing it on this acre, but I couldn't, realistically speaking, year 4, I'm like, I can't fucking do it. So what are we gonna do? So we go to the restaurant, they pay for the premium, we do the community service, we do what we can to kind of offset all the costs, but it's, real price of food, real food. I brought one of my farmers with us here, and she's like, well, pay me, and I can't, I pay her in produce, and I'm grateful to have her, but that's not realistic. She's gonna get a job, and then I'm screwed. So produce more, pay more, keep people on the farm, but in the end, it does cost $12 a pound, and I apologize for it.
Yeah.
All you beautiful people, it's important not to talk among ourselves. I'm going to a lot of conferences and I see a lot of the same people. It's exactly what you said. It must get to the point where the people that are polluters, that are still using styrofoam, I compete against those folks. The people that I see, walking out with pre-prepared empanadas that we're growing the stuff to make, and I'm competing against them on price. Until those people and those organizations and those companies are outliers rather than the standard bearer, we're still going to be in the same place. How that happens is that you convert the outside world. We, at our farmers market, we have never put up vegan or vegetarian or whatever. We're plant-based. We serve hell of a good food. And that brings the guy from Chicago who's 220 pounds and always been a meat eater, and I don't want to hear about this goddamn vegan and vegetarian stuff, coming every week. And then you see him transform. So until we can do that and stop that we're all nodding that we know this is the right thing to do, until we can get it where those people that are not moving to sustainability or regenerative or the outliers, we're going to remain in the same space. And I'm very optimistic that we can do it.
Nice. Yeah, I wanted to follow up a little bit on something Sasha mentioned in Mud too. What does an urban farmer look like? And in particular, in terms of skill set, what are you all looking for? And then in terms of pay, is it something that we can sustainably expect to see in cities, or is it something that is transitory, where people do it because they're passionate about it and then they move on to things that'll actually pay them enough to live in a city that's as expensive as Los Angeles? And I think you all might have slightly different opinions, but I'm curious to hear what you think. Maybe Ricky, if you want to start.
There is no blueprint. There is no model. There is not a thing that an urban farmer looks like. I want people who are, I don't want employees. I want equals. I want people that are as passionate about improving their community lives and their lives as I am. I want people that have a varied skill set. I want a person that can come here and represent me on this panel and then go out and work an acre of land because it needs to get done, and it needs to get done by Friday. I need people that okay, yeah, you just did that acre. All right, we need to come in the office because we need to go over the books so we can find out what our payroll is coming up, so we can make sure that people aren't leaving. I wish you could see my file box of all the volunteers and people that have come through. Amazing people, but people are only going to do it because of their heart for free, because they have wants and needs. So I don't think there is one specific role model that I've seen. I think it's a person that is very flexible, a person that's internally motivated and that really cares. I was talking to Colin. It's so hard. You run across so many setbacks. So you need people that say, you have this huge setback. We had people that we brought in, and we paid them more than living wage, and they ran off with $8,000 of equipment in the middle of the night because they made a copy of the key. And what are you going to do? You got to keep doing it regardless. And so you need people that are resolute. And I think that's the most important thing. I've been calling myself an urban farmer or being in that for 12 years. I never was till I felt the pain of a bagarota bug eating my collards and my kale that came from Africa up through Mexico, and just seeing $40,000 I just spent, and I can't do anything about it. I'm calling UC Davis, and they're coming in and like, yep, it's pretty bad. If you need to use conventional if you're organic. So, I'm resolute. I go out with a dry vac, and I'm killing those cute little brother bugs that I first saw. I thought, oh, they're so cute. All they do is, copulate and eat at the same time. What kind of creature is this? And at night, because that's when you got to do whatever's required, and that's the kind of people I want.
Mud?
So, Sarah, my apprentice, she's well acquainted with the bend over, pick shit up. She, what do you weigh? What, about like 110 pounds? 105? And okay, there we go. And she picks up about 20 times her body weight in squash on a work day, because we're a squash farm. It's a high volume, low input sort of crop. We do about 20 different heirloom varieties. Every now and then we make a misstep. We're thinking we're growing something exotic and cool. And it turns out to be the Indonesian Ramadan squash that is very cool and refreshing. Not a big market for that, but stupid goes with farming. It really does. I think the question itself is like a whole day conference. What is an urban farmer, Mr. Puro? I was trained by a Pennsylvania Dutch farmer. And one of the things that, I didn't set out to be a farmer. I just did it because I needed a place to live while I was a furniture maker's apprentice. And, farming, the schedules are the schedules. You need, before harvest, the day before market, the 2 days a week, he needed a young guy who was stupid with dreadlocks to pick stuff up. And I did. It was great. He had 3 actual sons. I was right in the middle of them all. None of them wanted to be farmers. and one of the things about farming itself, I tell lots of college-educated folks, right? And I went to trade school. And not to say that y'all are special, but sometimes you think a little too much, and that will get in the way. And we're dealing with less than 2% of the American population farming. And so, like, for any of you considering being a farmer at any age, on the production side, okay, that's a small bit. The production side, go out to the Camarillo Flats, go out in Ventura, sign up for a crew. I may be the only. Are there any other white folks that have been migrant pickers for months on end? There we go. You will learn to bend over and pick shit up, and you do piecework, and you work hard. And that gives you a context. You will dread, when you're raking blueberries in Maine, you will dread the word organic, which is code for like hippies with weeds and 3 blueberries. Pop-Tarts has a little bit higher expectations. Urban farming is just farming. Farming, different than gardening, which is the space that occupies a lot of folks in a city. Gardening is growing food for yourself. That's great, do it. You'll become a better customer for the farmers because you know what the good stuff is. Farming is growing food for other people, and in my case, flowers, because we have to do in Los Angeles, right? The other skill sets. You have to be a real estate person. You have to be a policy person. You have to be someone who can give Eric Garcetti gladiolas, his favorite flower, by the way. Don't ask me why I know that. You have to smooth over those barriers to creating those spaces that Mark and the folks from the LA Neighborhood Land Trust have done such a great job in possibly unleashing the floodgate of urbanites killing tomatoes. I'm looking forward to that. But you really, the production end, you just got to sit there without the TV and read the organic encyclopedia front to back because you don't have a TV. The generation of knowledge that I was given, one of the reasons why I teach, I feel obligated to share, to pass it on. We're losing that rapidly, and there's not enough farmers to pass it on. So for the other farmers in the room, take the college kids in, work their ass off, make them sweat, make them not want to do it anymore. And when they see the tomatoes they've done, they may actually find themselves to be horribly addicted. Right, Sarah? Yeah.
I wanted to reverse a little bit the dynamic we had this morning. We had the policy people up here talking a little bit about the big policy issues they saw. What do you all see as the big policy issues that you want to see them taking up?
Land, it's not so much land access, but, there's, I don't know the statistics for Long Beach vacant properties, but they're everywhere. It's like if you're looking for a place to live, you notice all the rentals. If you're looking for a vacant property, once you put those eyes on, you see them everywhere. And starting with what district is it in? Okay, it's 7th District, contacting that chief of staff, city council. We have an office of sustainability in our city offices, and they are swamped, so they're not necessarily the most active department in the city. I don't know. We've talked a lot, previous panel talked a lot about jam ups and that sort of thing, but it's the same. if you make friends with the people in the housing department, they're not so friendly. Luckily, my current property is on land owned by Park and Rec in favor of green space. Hallelujah. They gave me a lease. They just renewed me. They don't have any money to develop it anyway. They don't care. I keep it tidy. We're always visitor ready. And I pay a percentage. I do pay to be there, but it's very, it's nothing. It's just more of a gesture than anything. And, but just real quick back to the labor thing. Our mission is more to train young farmers, and I say young meaning any age, but we do try and make it happen with volunteers, work share, and paid staff. And if I had more properties, then we do a rooftop as well, but staffing is always a problem, and how to keep those. And I have the file folders too of all the hundreds of well-intendeds that have come through, but you do need the weed pullers. I have a tractor. You got to be able to, troubleshoot and jump the battery because we left the lights on, and chickens everywhere, and it's it's like that. So super diverse, but access to land, and then the development of it, and the long-term lease is all part of expansion.
Anybody else have anything they're
I do.
waiting for?
So in terms of policy, we're talking about food and farming, but I also we're at a school. I inhabit education. And for someone who has a trade school background, like a la 1600, I was an apprentice, both with the farmer and the furniture makers that made Sam Maloof-style rocking chairs, and that's an art unto itself. Folks that work with their hands are not valued in our education system and our economy. And if you've ever had to flush a toilet that's broken, you might have a different appreciation of a plumber. Our kids learn how to do water-wise low-flow irrigation, and they can be hired on to Water LA and another nonprofit. I'm so fed up with the California Department of Education and the stepchild status of career tech ed, of which I'm a credentialed teacher. So I've gotten to the place in the work I do that K-12 education is a bit of a sewer when it comes to like creating a generation of makers. They've gotten away from that. It's not valued. We're going to outsource it all. And not a one of you goes out and finds Chinese garlic by name, something you want. So if we're going to have a generation of farmers, the public education institutions have to be on the board. I'm not going to wait for them. I'm going to take a UCLA maxim from John Wooden. Don't sweat the stuff you can't fix, control the stuff you can. I love that man, that poetry teacher, my favorite. So we have at Muir Ranch, we've kind of outgrown our K-12 school. This was in the LA Times piece. We're looking for a 3 to 10 acre parcel that will be the LA Children's Garden. It'll be a support structure for garden-based learning, but I want to drop a maker charter school right in the middle of it with 100 kids that run it. Because welding, shop class, gardening, emotionally upset kids who are really bright don't test well either. But you give them some ownership, and it's transformative. And then when they develop the work habits and they engage and they want to be in that kitchen, and like Robert, they need to know what a third a cup is, right? Because that recipe depends upon it. Then it's relevant. And I've got this amazing crew of adults and team members. Daryl Belanzia from Odyssey Charter, the one person I haven't embarrassed yet in the audience. Veronica Flores, Veronica, stand up. My value-added product manager, the brand diva, the pickle queen, yes. Veronica is trying to take this food waste with the kids and make something more, a shelf-stable project that someone like Whole Foods can carry because they want to sell the story, but they really want to sell good stuff. And to really do that, you have to have the makers. And to have the makers, you have to have the policy and the education nerds on board. That's what I want.
Fantastic. I think we're about at the point where we should open things up for questions. So if you all wanted to line up behind the mics on each side, and maybe I'll ask Narit one question while you all do that. Is we were talking a little bit earlier about tension sometimes that arises between urban ag and other sustainability values, and the drought was mentioned by I think our previous panel. How do you kind of see those interacting, and how do you resolve those tensions?
I do see those challenges. I don't know if I have all the answers. I think within sustainability, there's always going to be trade-offs, and with urban ag, depending on how it's done, it can increase the water. It might even be more water intensive than the grass you remove. So I don't think we have necessarily, besides life cycle analysis, I'm not sure we have comprehensive ways of really measuring what's more important in that way. There's so much value that isn't so easily quantified to growing our own food internally. So I think the thing to do is to be conscientious of those issues and work towards addressing water consumption as much as you can and teaching people, water efficient ways. Maybe we don't grow rice in LA, or some really water intensive crop, but that doesn't mean we can't grow anything. And so, I think the more people can understand the broader issues and how they connect, the better of a job we're going to do, probably. On what Mud just brought up in terms of teaching people, we're trying to do that here at UCLA. Also, we have a small garden right now, but we're about to expand it to a larger community garden and really take the idea of the classroom beyond just the four walls and actually get kids out there to get their hands dirty, literally. And even if they don't all grow up to be farmers, at least they grow up to be whatever they're going to be, planners, policymakers, and they have that understanding that they can bring, that appreciation that they can bring to whatever it is that they're doing.
Perfect. Anisha?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this really inspiring panel. I learned a lot of new ideas from all of your projects, Mud. It's always fascinating to hear you speak, so thank you. I really appreciate how a lot of you guys are doing urban farming, but also in the education side, training the next generation of leaders, training the next generation of farmers. And so I wanted to pose this question that's something that I've been dealing with, and I want to understand how us as stakeholders can contribute to bringing up the leadership of diverse communities, people from diverse backgrounds, and communities of color into this space. I think it's something that's extremely needed. It was pointed out by Mark in a previous panel about how the people who are critical to this conversation need to be at the table. So I'm wondering how you guys in your practice make that happen and intentionally create those spaces.
I'd like to talk a little about that. We're talking about education. We're talking about diversity. As I said, I've had 15 acres of land in my family for years and years. Living in the city where I work, I don't work in the area that I live and the area that I work is a Latino Hispanic community. It's Highland Park, and the way I choose to transform is not by attraction rather than selling. A young man was forced to come to my on-spring project at the Los Angeles Historic State Park along with 8 other individuals, or go to juvie hall. So he came because it was going to take something off his record. He was a member of NSP, which is Nigger Stomping Posse. So he hated me right out the beginning. He had gotten out of that gang to start changing his life. So he came there and he worked reluctantly because he didn't like bending over and picking up shit, especially with me asking him to do so. The same individual in 2007, he loses his father. His father's murdered on Monte Vista Street in 2011. So he had a mom and 2 sisters that he needs to take care of. He's still with me. Now he's moved from working at some of the farms to representing us in the community at some of the farmers markets. That's 2011. After his father was murdered, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to pay this guy what he needs to take care of his family. So I went to my neighbor, Geronimo, who belongs to Local 300. It's a concrete union. So he's doing his apprenticeship right now in the concrete union. And he's going to make $27 an hour, but he still comes and he still works the farmers markets, and he'll still go to one of our farms and irrigate. So I've personally seen him and many other stories of people making, 180 to 360 degree transformation. It wasn't anything that Urban Green did. It wasn't anything that Ricky Smith did. It was working with the soil. It was working with diverse people. So I say it has to happen organically. I don't know what policy you could create, All I have to say is that by being out there and being there for him and for other people, I have seen transformations and diversity happen.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I can, speak to that a little bit too. I used to work for the center here at UCLA with the longest name, which was the Center for Research, Education, Training, and Strategic Communications on Minority Health Disparities. It was not a friendly acronym. It's like CRISHMUD or something. But Dr. Vicki Mays and the center there, we're looking at these issues that you're talking about, that we still have a long way to go. We do have real food deserts here in LA, and we do have communities that really need this kind of engagement and local food. I used to volunteer with a woman, Anna Marie Carter, who was known as the Seed Lady of Watts, and she was building a lot of gardens in our cities here. And I've seen a lot of programs that work, that engage, and build that capacity where we need it, that try to get us out of these food deserts and give people the access that they need to local food. But I think one place to start is to get people talking about these issues, get them to understand it. We teach some courses here in environmental justice or related things. And one of our alums, D'Artagnan Scorza, started the Social Justice Learning Institute and some school gardens in Inglewood. So there's a lot of really exciting work happening on those issues here in LA. But I definitely think it's critically important, and that we need to make sure that whatever we're doing, we include everybody that's a part of our city here.
So I can't believe I can beat Robert Eggert to quoting Cornel West at this conference, but I'm going to do it. So, and it goes right to your question, because my favorite quote, justice is what love looks like in public. And so for my students, race, privilege, class, gender, all of that. I got that privilege for days. And as someone who's been a school garden advocate and champion for as long as I've been, the single greatest value in a school garden isn't the goddamn broccoli, right? It's a kid discovering they can grow broccoli and that they're capable of it, they deserve it, and it's the good stuff. That's the transformation. So now that I'm working with high school and college age students, Lolly, who is by far a better flower arranger than I am. I'm on the ADD spectrum a little. She can knock out 20 arrangements, one after the other. And right now, today, I have to give her cash for the wedding that we did. She happens to be undocumented, and I'm not going to tip her. The client tipped me. I did the wedding. 2 of them. She did 2. And I'm going to tell her I'm not going to tip her because she didn't ask for more than the $20 an hour. Because I'm going to tip her, and I'm going to share. But she needs to know that she's worth more than $20 an hour. Now, $20 an hour to a second-year PCC student is a pretty good deal. But that's not the deal that she deserves. The deal, she's worth more. And when I get her to figure that out, we're going to go 2 ways. Either she's going to be my business partner, and we're going to freelance weddings. By the way, our shit was retweeted by Martha Stewart this week. I'm feeling that. And she'll be making 30 and 40, and she won't look back because she'll realize how good she is. Because ownership is at the heart of this bending over and picking shit up. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you work harder, and then you're almost dead, and you work a little more. And then you're owning it. And the rewards are what you make. And that is something that is dependent upon you. And that's what my students can control. And I can create that space where we find out what they're excellent at. At least I think so.
Yeah, and I'm getting the nod from Robert that says it's time for us to break up. We have a networking break coming up, and after that, we're going to replace all the soil-based growers up here with controlled environment ag, so a slightly different perspective. Thanks again, everyone.